He used to change every other week on this polygyny. Seemed like to me a
Yeah.
lot of things when he was younger. It's like he's maturing a little bit now.
Well, yeah, he's 30. He's,
It's amazing.
I remember, yeah, he's like 30. I think that's what he
Well,
said.
let's see. I ran around with him up to his house and taking him to court and everything. That must have been
Yeah,
5 years ago. One, two, I think that was in 16. Yeah.
yeah. I
And
remember I moved out of the house in North Carolina in 2015, I think, 2016. And I had been reading his stuff for, I don't know how long before that, a few years. So,
where did you find
but
it to read it? Online?
I just, it, I think I was a member of a group of his. It was the Dead Sea Scrolls study group of some kind. And he had downloaded that document in the in that group. I guess that group's still around. I'm not online
It
all that
started
much
up
anymore.
again. Yeah, I think it started up
Yeah.
lately, but he's got it's like a Hebrew class now.
Yeah, and does he speak Hebrew?
No, I don't think it's a matter of speaking. He kind of like analyzes Hebrew words. I
Oh,
think, Steve, do you go to his thing on Hebrew? Maybe he can tell us. Could Oni's Hebrew class? That's
I know Melissa does.
oh, she does.
Or well, I don't know if she goes I think she goes every week, yeah. Yeah. So, but I think that's where he had downloaded that Deuteronomy document in that group. And
Mhm.
I don't know how I ended up in a Dead Sea Scrolls group. Could have been because of Donald McGrew, actually. I don't know. I don't remember. It's
Donald
been a long
McGrew?
time ago. Yeah, Donald McGrew. I hope he shows up tonight. He's a smart one, that
He
Donald
never
McGrew.
shows up.
I know he always says he is, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
But I hope he does.
He came down here and I met him and his wife. And then I went up to Kentucky and visited him one time.
Did you?
I've tried to visit
Paducah.
a lot of people while I could.
I have in 2013 I met him and his wife at Sukkot in Falls Creek Falls, Virginia, Tennessee in 2013. So I met him and his wife at that Sukkot gathering that we had back then.
Well, I think
He's a great guy. He's really nice. He's really a nice
I
guy.
like him. I visited with his group and got to give a little speech there. We did it in Chong's Chinese restaurant.
Oh,
Don't go to
nothing like a
Chong.
little lo mein.
It's a lo mein, all right.
Nothing like a little lo mein.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, he's got real nice kids too. I think a son and a daughter came.
Yeah, he's got some grandkids and stuff. He's a great guy. I really liked him. Just a straight up guy, and he's so smart. I mean, he just, I get around him, and when he starts talking, I'm like, oh, I just feel so dumb.
I don't think that I've gotten him to come to anything all the years I've known him. I don't think so.
I don't
Except he had
know.
me up there one time.
Yeah.
But that's
Well, I guess he works, does the what does he do? The surveying. He has that surveying company, so he's works. So I guess he goes to bed early. I don't know, but he's in a different time zone. He's out in Western Kentucky. That's Central time zone. So he really has no excuse because it's only like 9 o'clock there. So
true.
he should show up. I hope he does.
Well, he probably would if he got a nice invitation from a female.
Oh, please. I'm gonna tag him and say, get yourself into the.
I'd love to hear him talk, especially about what I want to talk about for a few minutes tonight.
Oh, he is so smart. He just is so smart. I'm gonna go out of here and see if I can
see if you can get
tag him and remind him. I'm gonna remind him.
Tag him. See if we can get her in there too, because she knows something about this topic.
Yes, she does. And she just reminded me about your group because I had asked her to earlier. Because I tend to forget about 30 minutes. I tend to remember 30 minutes after you started. So she just reminded me. So I think she's coming.
I tend to remember when the alarm goes off, and then I'm in horror.
Ah, that's funny.
I'm going to do this again. I'm forcing myself to do it, you know.
Let me see if I can find him.
I'll go ahead.
I don't know how to spell his name.
Who are we talking about?
Donald McGrew. There he is. Okay.
That's easy to spell.
Donald McGrew, where are you? Scooby-Doo, where are you? And I'll tag Melissa too. So she knows something about this topic, eh?
She's been to enough studies on it.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of studies on the calendar years and years ago. It's very interesting. And I think we've talked about this before, about like the earth and how it has changed positions and like through earthquakes and just different geological events that have happened over time. And, you know, so it's always an interesting topic for me.
Good.
I think it's very important. I think it's very important because I believe that, you know, because we have to count the days. There's Miss Melissa. We have to count the days, the 1,260 days, the 1,290 days, which, you know, indicates to me the second Passover and the 1355 and, you know, all of these days, the 2,300, we have to count these days. And in order to count these days, my logic just tells me we have to have some understanding of Yahweh's calendar.
Which calendar are you speaking of, I wonder? The Zadokite calendar or the Jewish calendar, or exactly?
I'm not sure what the names are. I don't really I think at some point we're going to be going back into a 30-day calendar.
Yeah.
Based on Daniel and Revelation, because we're going to have to be counting these days. And we, in order to do that from the feasts, you know, we have to have a calendar that we can understand. That's just my simple-minded opinion, I guess.
Yeah, I want to look at here. We're about time to start, but I want to look at the calendar that's in vogue right now, and that's the Zadokite calendar. It's 360 days plus 4 days. And
okay.
Hebrew groups like crazy are getting on this calendar, but I've found some inconsistencies.
Is that the calendar that starts on the equinox?
Well, it doesn't start on the equinox, but it ventures forth from the equinox. That's how you keep a 364-day calendar in sync with a 365-day year. You use equinox each year to set the new year date.
That's how I start a year,
okay,
with the spring equinox. And then just count. And then add days either at the end of, and then start the 7th month at the autumn equinox, and then whatever days end up. It doesn't really matter to me how many days are in the year.
Right.
At the end, I just wait until the equinox, because
that's right.
To me, the only thing that really matters is when are the feasts.
Yes, that is smart. I hope you who are online just heard what she said. The most common sense method in the world. There's no use even thinking about a feast calendar after the 7th month now, is there?
Right. So what, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is we've got to find that first day of the year So we
Okay.
can find it when Passover is. Yeah.
And that's what I want y'all to help me to do right now, because I am in a dilemma about this, because the guy I've been working with on calendars for all these years, I find that he is not using the method of finding the beginning of the year that we decided on. So I want to go to like 4 beginnings of a year, if I can get that many on the calendar. And I'll explain it. And then if you can, there's Professor Smith just came on. While I'm at it, I want to repeat again what I'm looking to do here. If you're on there, Elder Smith, I am trying to reconcile to what I consider to be an error in the Zadokite calendar that Norman Gray and a lot of people are doing right now. I never thought I would, because for many years we had talked about this and come to some conclusions about when the year starts. And so that's what I want to look at, a couple, maybe 3, maybe 4 year starts, and see if they're consistent. And I want to ask you first, anybody that would care to opine, is, oh, people coming on here, is, when do you think the new year starts? Remembering this is supposed to be the perfect calendar where if you do it right, there won't be any intercalary days besides the one specified in the book of Enoch, 4 days. One day comes at the end of each quarter. How do we find the first day of the year? Now, let me tell you first, I'll give you an example. I'll give you 2 examples. What I'm thinking, the only way to go without an intercalary days or a month later on, or a week after 6 years, that stuff, is I am sure the Essenes didn't do that, or the Zadokites didn't do that, is to use the vernal equinox and use the formula of the Dead Sea Scrolls every year. Considering, again, as Vicky said, after the 7th month, the calendar has no more use. You're not going to put your doctor's appointments on a temple feast calendar. You're going to go back to the secular calendar that everyone used. And in the 1st century, the secular calendar was called the lunisolar calendar, and it was the calendar of the Sadducees. The Pharisees had a different calendar. Both the Sadducees and Pharisees had foreign calendars. The Sadducees had the calendar of the Greeks, the lunisolar, because they wanted to keep up with the Greek market days so they wouldn't lose any money in all their investments. Whereas the Pharisees, just by the name of them, you can tell they came from somewhere else. Farsi, Pharisee, Persia. They came out of Persia and were originally a part of the Zoroastrian movement. And when they came into Israel, having been converted to Judaism to some extent, they brought Zoroastrian doctrines into Israel. And they also brought in the Persian calendar, which was something like the observation calendar is today, the green ears. And that's why you're seeing some references in the Torah concerning the Adar or Aviv, the green barley ears. That wasn't what it was at first. In about 175 to 171 BC, these factions took the temple away from the Zadokite priests. Now, the Zadokite priests were to be forever in charge of the calendar in the temple. Why? Because Yahweh said so in Ezekiel 44. They'll be my man in all these liturgical things forever. But in 175 to 171, the so-called Sadducees, they were the secondary priests, the wrong family for the high priesthood. They took over and they brought in the lunisolar calendar. And then about 100 years later, the Pharisees took over the temple and brought in the Persian calendar. And the Zadokites, in the meantime, in the 100 years, they were either murdered or in exile. The high priest, Onias III, the last of the Zadokite priests, was murdered. I mean, they just took over. And in Yeshua's time then, which the Jewish dictionary will tell you right off the bat, there were at least 3 calendars going, and probably more like 5 or 6. Those that were Zadokites, Nazarenes, Essenes, Enochians, there were a lot of different denominations. They kept to the old calendar for their feasts. They had nothing to do with the temple, the Sadducees, or their calendars. But the Sadducees, of course, had the power. They were the smallest group with the power and the money. Sounds familiar? Of course it does. So in Yeshua's day, the people that were connected up with the Enochian Zadokite movement from 100 years before, that had been in charge of the temple, and that Yahweh gave the authority over the temple to, they were still using the Zadokite calendar for feasts. And of course, when the feasts were over, and in between the feasts, there was a secular calendar that their doctor, their trash man, their investment counselor. Steve, is this pretty well lining up with what those things say? Oh, somebody asked me to check out Jerry Morris. All right. Now, let me give you the formula that I get out of the Dead Sea Scrolls and from the top scholars in this area. When the equinox comes around, you go to the next Sunday, which is the first day of the week, first day of creation. And then after the Sunday, you go to the next Wednesday, the 4th day after the Sunday, after the equinox. And that's your first day of the year. And if you do that every year, you'll never have to add a day to it. And just like you said, who cares when the year ends? It's when the feasts are. And there are 5 months that, or 4 months that they're not even going to use that calendar. Now, thank you for the links. I'll be able to look those up later because I need an answer on this. So that's the formula. And you do it every year to get your first day of the new year. Now, let's look at a Norman Gray calendar for maybe last year or the year before. Let's see what this is. Maybe that's too small. This is March 2021. It looks to me that, let's see, down here we have, I sometimes get mixed up on, okay, the bottom day is the day in March. So we've got the 3rd month on the Gregorian, the 12th month on the temple calendar. He's got the equinox on the 20th of March. What day is that? Just not getting enough in here. That's on a Sabbath. So he goes to the next first day. Note, at this time, he was using the evening as the start of the day. He's quit doing that since just recently this year. So he goes to the next Sunday after the equinox, the 21st. Then he marches in 4 days to Wednesday. That's exactly right, at least the way I understand it. I've done a lot of study on this. I really have. I've not listened to anybody online. I go to the scholars and I go to the scrolls. I want to go up a year to 22. So we have something very similar. The 20th, which is a Sunday. This is a situation we have this year. And it would probably do me good to look up some of these fragments here. He's got the solstice, the vernal equinox, on a Sunday, the 20th. And he goes to the Wednesday. That may or may not be right. And the way I see it is, it depends on what side of midnight that equinox comes. Because if it's the wrong side of midnight, that's going to mean that this is going to have to go down a week, because we would have to, if it comes on the right side of midnight here, we're going to have to count to the next Sunday, and then the 4th day, to keep with the formula. And didn't I mention we have to keep that formula every year, every new year, to avoid intercalation. Whoop, I was leaving Melissa out there. So now let's go to another calendar. That's my question. That's one of my questions right there. We'll see this in this upcoming year too. Let me find the other one. Okay, this is the latest one. And you might notice, if you've got one of these, on the very first page, it talks about the calendar having to put in a week or so every 6 years. That made me not want to pass this calendar out anymore. If you've got one of the recent ones, there's got to be intercalation every 6 years. And the only reason that has to be is because the new year didn't start on the right day. A lot of explanation. It's the beauty of this calendar. So we get to 22. That's this year. We have the equinox on Sunday again. He's got it on the left side of Sunday. I don't know if that means that it's before midnight or not. I could see if it was before, well, I'm not clear about this, but he goes to the first Wednesday. I'm thinking there's a chance, depending on when that equinox actually equinoxed, and to be honest with you, it's usually on a Wednesday or Thursday in the past years, whether New Year has to be stretched out to the 30th rather than the 23rd. Else tomorrow's the New Year. And we're talking about right now. If we continue on this way throughout, we're going to end up getting out of season before long. Let's just go to the end, to the next year, and see what we have. So I didn't look at this. Okay. Here we have the equinox on a Monday. And he doesn't follow the Dead Sea Scrolls formula that says go to the next Sunday and to the Wednesday. It's got to be done every new year. Just like it's been said earlier, we don't care when the calendar ceases, when the year is over, because it's a moot point. It has no effect on anything. You're already through your 7th month and the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. There are no biblical holidays those days that I know of. The way I'm seeing this is completely off. It needs to go to Sunday. This is 2023 next year, and the new year needs to be here. Now, I've read most of this stuff in here, but I don't want to go through that now. What I want to do is ask you that know something about this business. I had confirmed with many different calendar creations. Well, it doesn't begin on a Sunday. What happens? The equinox being on Sunday, you're supposed to go to the next Sunday and then 4 days to the Wednesday. That's the 4th day. I'm sorry I missed this. When the sun came to be on the 4th day. That's why we start on the next Sunday. That's the 1st day. Why? Now, that's an easy question, because that's what the scrolls tell us to do. And if you look at the MMT document, several translators there have given us, instead of 1st day, 2nd day, 3rd day, 4th day, they actually say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So as we won't be confused as to which day is the 1st day. Just before I came on here, somebody claimed that in the 9th century was the first time that they actually set the Sabbath on Saturday. That's nonsense. And the scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Oh, which ones? Masa Miksat HaTorah. That's the MMT. The calendrical scrolls. The Damascus document talks about this, or the Zadokite fragment. And the Book of Jubilees and Enoch. Those scrolls. They're all of one voice about this, but I add to that secondary witnesses. Now, I'm not going to go to YouTube, or I'm not going to go and just ask myself. I know something about this. I'm not just going to ask myself or ask somebody on YouTube, what do you think? Oh, I like to know what they think, if they know more than I do. And some people do, for sure. But I need to have the truth, because I'm telling people, I'm promoting this calendar. I've been promoting it for nearly 10 years. And if Norman has gone from the scrolls formula for this, and in order to keep in the status quo of other people, then I'm going to be done with that. Look, he and I had a talk about this 2 weeks ago. It's up on YouTube, this very thing. Why can't I ask Norman? I did. We had an hour time. I was asking Norman. I didn't get an answer out of him, but we have talked about this many times. But I thought this one time I'm going to nail him down on it. Why did you do this, Norman? You can, if you're interested in this, you can go out there. It was to youtube1.org and watch that 1 hour video or less. And it is just a couple back. It's like a week and a half ago. I usually do about 2 or 3 a week. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Can we alter this in a corrective way? He's looking for someone to take over. He feels that doing this calendar now, I don't know, probably for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and printing up beautiful representations of it for us, and then letting the rest of us pass out PDFs of it. It's been excellent until just this time over this same thing. Now, I thought a year ago we had gotten this nailed down, but we didn't. And evidently we didn't get it nailed down 2 weeks ago because he wouldn't come to a conclusion. He's making the calendar. Okay, that's why I'm asking you now for 25 minutes that I expected 15 to maybe put this down on your puzzle page. Norman is a non-joiner. The fourth day after the equinox is not the first day. Mark, the fourth day, the equinox comes, then you go to the first day of the week. If the equinox comes on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, you've got to haul out to the next Sunday to catch a first day. This is hard to understand, I know. Then you go to the fourth day. Some people are teaching that equinox and then 4 days is the first day of the year. That's not in the scrolls. They need to go back and read that very carefully. A lot of people are teaching that, but that is not right. I'm sorry. In my opinion, it's not right. So let me see. Where do we go from here? The way that's going now with Norman's calendar is, why is it not right? Well, as I said before, because the Zadokites didn't do it that way. We're trying to get back to the way of the temple and the tabernacle before the Sadducees took over. I'm talking about up until the end of the 2nd century. We have to go back that far. We didn't know anything about this calendar until the Book of Jubilees was discovered. Then we didn't know much until the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. And we're finding this whole body of literature, far more than that's in the Torah about calendar, is out there, along with the history of why they changed the calendar. No, they didn't have the Gregorian calendar, but they didn't need it. If you go back on linguistic studies, the question is, how do we know that the Sabbath is the 7th day? The only way we know back far enough is to look at linguistic studies. No, the Second Temple was built based on the first day being the first day of the year on the Zadokite calendar. That was the temple calendar. That was the secular calendar as well at that time, before 171 BC. In Yahshua's time, you ever wonder why he keeps getting in trouble over the Shabbat? Because the status quo calendar was the lunisolar calendar, where the Shabbat changes every 3 months, depending on a full moon or a sliver of moon, or however they wanted to do it. However the Greeks did it, that's the way the Sadducees wanted to do it, because they wanted to keep up with their marketing and their investments. I think there was one last piece of this. Man, I tell you, so far, you have helped me very much in order to try to explain this. And there are a lot of chats here. Brother Smith, I believe that I know what it is. And people like your friend, Avi Mordecai. He didn't see this until he worked it out by hand for 200 years. Then he wrote me back in great joy. He said, this is right. No intercalation, and I ran it out for 200 years. If you just do this every year to get the first day of the year. Avi ran into the same problem. Yes. And he listened to, I guess, one of my 364-day calendar things. And it was like an aha moment. No more 13th month, never needed again. No more added days, never needed again. All you have to do is set the new year, first day of the year, by the equinox. And to tell you the truth, any way you do it, just as long as you do it the same way every year, you're not going to have to intercalate any place. But like we saw on the calendar there, he does it one year the right way, and he does it the next year the expedient way, but not necessarily the right way. You got to do it the same way every year. If you say that the first day of the calendar is on the equinox, that's fine. You're never going to have a problem. If you say that the first day is the Wednesday after the equinox, that's fine. You will never have any problem. You'll never have any intercalation unless you change one year. Unless you change it for 1 year. If you try both of these formulas, one after the other, you're going to have to intercalate. Or you're going to end up, not in your lifetime, but in somebody's lifetime, it's going to alter the feasts by a week. Avi's resolution was that he simply tested my resolution. He took a lot of time at it. And when he tested it out for 200 years in the future, then he was joyful because that was the resolution for him. And he wrote to me and was thrilled with it. And now he's going to come over and preach a couple Sabbaths for us in May. You have to set the first day of the week, if for no other reason, that it's after the equinox, it's on or after the equinox. If you do it the same way every year, if you say, well, it's going to be on the equinox the next Wednesday, that's all right. I mean, it's not right, but you're never going to have to intercalate. What I'm saying is that the scholars tell us, I mean, these are top guys. They have studied this their whole lives. The top guys say, you go to the equinox, then you go to the next first day of the week, which is Sunday. Then you go to the Wednesday, which is the fourth day of the week, because that's the day that the sun was created. And then it's the feasts. The main feasts are always going to be on Wednesday. They're always going to be on the same weekdays year after year. The preparation days are all going to be the same. The the Yom Kippur is never going to be on a Sabbath, going to be on a Friday. See, this is a beautiful thing. That's why they call it perfect. As long as every year you do it exactly the same. And my advocacy is for if you have equinox on a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, you don't just go to the next Wednesday. You have to have a first day of the week first before you have a fourth day. So you've got to go to the next first day and then the fourth day. Well, you say that doesn't match the gospel record, but let me say again, they didn't use that calendar in the first century. The New Testament is set up on the lunisolar calendar with their Sabbaths. However, you can read that calendar people have shown us time after time that what John says about the crucifixion of Yeshua is what's in the scripture is exactly right in accordance with the Zadokite calendar. And let me say that Yeshua was not raised up on Sunday morning. He was raised up on Shabbat night. Wednesday is when he was killed on the day of preparation. I'm not an expert at this, but I'm figuring that that's fully 3 days and 3 nights. And I know I can find that teaching. I might have it somewhere myself. Mark, I appreciate that. You know what? You're a very good critic. You know what you're talking about. You always do. If you find something like that in teaching, yeah, I'd like to see it again. All right. So that's all the farther I want to go with this, except I want to study your notes here, unless you've got something you would like to say about it. If not, if you have something you don't want to say it, please put it in the chat.
Well, what's the resolution on all this, Jackson? Are we sticking with the calendar we got, or we altering, or what?
We have to make a decision, and we are coming together, I believe, on March 30th. Isn't that the last Wednesday of the month and the purported first day of the year? We have to talk about this. We might have to break away from them. It depends. I'm going to ask people after tonight to study up on this. I'm going to send them the essays, and I'm going to ask them, please study up on this, and we'll have to make a decision. Because either the New Year's tomorrow or it's the next Wednesday. We had the same problem in 18. And those that were on the Zadokite calendar, and there weren't that many at that time, were not going by that formula. I think that the equinox was on Sunday and they went to the first Wednesday. But the equinox was after midnight. They went to the first Wednesday. We used the formula, and it's not that we were wrong, but we were a week later than everybody else that was using a Zadokite calendar. This is always the hard difficulty. And if the cult leader or whoever it is, the teacher, doesn't want to study this out fully, or they pick up what somebody else says, then chances are they're going to be wrong. And they're going to have to account for this in the long run because it's a feast calendar. Doesn't Yahweh say that we need to take care to make sure these are on the right days? I don't think that he's going to send you to hell or anything like that. I think he wants diligence. But I would rather, don't you like to be right? Say you've studied something for years and you feel convinced in your own mind. Don't you like to be right? Yeah, a cult leader People, my brothers call me a cult leader. I'm not really. But what I'm saying is that if somebody can show me different, and Norman can't, then show me. You show me if you got something more perfect than this calendar, the calendar that even Paolo Sacchi says is a perfect calendar for feasting. You like to be wrong? Okay. We like to have you here so you can be wrong. You come up with some really good quips today, though, Vicky, of course. All right. So if you have I would ask you, I don't mind being wrong either, but look, if you've done all you can on this, and then you're wrong, the one that's telling you you're wrong ought to be able to show you. I'll change in a minute. You guys know me. I'm not my way or the highway, nothing like that. I'm trying to get other people to get into this and work on it. And, you know, when we have our meetings and we've got big things like this to discuss and vote on, it's a democratic policy. And when I say that if we can't decide on it after hearing each person speak, if we can't come up to a conclusion, we've sent somebody out of the room before the conversation even starts. We send them out of the room. They don't know what we're going to be talking about, but we tell them to get on your knees and go to the throne room. You go to the throne room and you ask your Father. And you bet it does. If we don't come to a conclusion here, then you are tasked with having been to the throne room and come down to give us the truth. We've only had to use that one time, but it was important and it worked. And everybody that has a right to vote in the Yahad, they acquiesce to whoever has been in the throne room. That's a way, I don't think anybody does it that way, except maybe the ancient Essenes. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be a member of a group where you don't have a one-man system. Have you been in a one-man system group, a Hebrew roots group, where somebody at the top dictates to you? I know that Gregory Smith and I have, and maybe some more of you have been in that situation. All of a sudden, one day they're against polygamy. The next day they're for polygamy. A year later, they become Mormons. Just whatever the leader says. I don't want a part of that. But anointing.
Hey, I didn't hear the Mormon story. What happened with the Mormon story?
Well, the one we're talking about, when he went to polygamy, he decided to go and try to get that going in the Mormon church again. So he started to use the Book of Mormon. Then next thing, it was authorized by the Holy Spirit. It was as much canon as their canon was before. And then at that time, he was sending this out to all these groups, and he wrote a book on sex, Hebrew roots sex.
Oh, that was a disaster, that sex book.
Yeah, but it was good. I thought it was very good. But anyway, it came around to that, and he said, we got a little bit of a tiff about it. And he said to me, well, if you can find anything in the Book of Mormon against polygamy, then you let me know. I can't choose that, Vicky.
There is something in the Book of Mormon against polygamy.
Huh? The Book of
There is
Jacob.
something in the Book of Mormon against
sure is.
polygamy.
I tell you
Comes
what,
right out and condemns it.
I listened to the whole Book of Mormon for 6 months, every night, all night.
Yeah, I listened to it too.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Well, it did come out, and then I went over there, and I don't think you were at this time. And they had a Feast of Tabernacles in 2011. I was to speak about the Essenes, and he gave me an assignment. How do we know that the Essenes practice polygamy? Oh, you see,
They didn't, did they?
no, but if they have an ordinance against it, then somebody is. And I gave 2 lectures there, one on James the Just, and the other was Essene polygamy.
Oy vey.
Oy vey. Look, your face is all lit up, Smith. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm surprised you didn't know about the Mormon thing. I'm surprised.
Those are the roller coaster years.
Yeah. All right, we didn't divulge who that was now, did we? All I can tell you is his last name was Jones. And he went to French Guiana. Just kidding. All right, who's going to help me on this?
We might be some of the very few left that know the old scuttlebutt, Jackson. One of we're getting down to the very few people that are old enough, that have been on this long enough to know the old scuttlebutt.
I was in the Beit Din for 2 years, and it was a matter of going to a Beit Din meeting and being lectured about what you're going to do next. You didn't have any say in it whatsoever, but maybe he was the prophet of that group. I know that we changed calendars like swiftly. Every 6 months we change calendars. He finally came around to this calendar, though, I'm glad to say. I'd like to be friends with him again, but he's not the friendly type.
He's following this calendar now, is he?
Last time, 2 years ago, he wrote to me and wanted me to explain it to him, which I did. It came out of the blue. 2 years ago, maybe not that long ago. And I explained it to him, and he was thrilled. And he said, that's what we're doing now. And he had a new name for it, like it was the Ramic Authorized Creation Calendar, something like that.
You got to give him credit. He's great at marketing.
Oh, you're not kidding. Very good. I don't know if he did or not. Did he, Brother Greg, did he do the Messianic Handbook?
I think so. I seem to recall that. Yeah, long back when he was with Angus and Batya Wooten.
Yeah, way back. Way back. He did a lot of good things. And that's why we both joined up with him years ago. And when he went into Mormonism, and then I don't want to say any more about that, but he did some pretty rough things to our group. And the Mormonism was about the end of it for me.
Mm-hmm.
He also wrote a letter and sent it out to thousands of people that said that I had married somebody and then dumped that somebody without supporting them. You know about that, Greg. Well, whether true or not, it was something that you have to take up with a person. You don't just go out and send that out to thousands of people.
Wow.
Those are personal things that you need to talk
Yeah.
about. And
Yeah, he had he tended to shoot from the hip, and it was a scattershot approach.
that's right.
And the thing is that, a lot of damage.
Well,
Yeah, help him. That's
we're
all
going to
right.
give $100
Maybe
prize.
he's gotten wiser.
What can we give as
Yeah.
a prize to anyone that can guess who we're talking about?
The latest thing is the shot thing. You know that he's pro shot. He's big pro shot. He took me off. I friended him. I was on friendly terms with him on it's not Facebook, it's that other one that's everybody's going to. It's anyway, so he took me off when I said, look, I mean, I started putting some of this stuff about, what they were putting into some of these shots and whatnot, and it was a knee-jerk reaction. I was persona non grata and unfriended right away.
Well, then I want to ask you a question and everybody else here concerning the shot. This is a very personal thing, but I value you guys, your help. I value your friendship and your advice, honest to goodness. I would like to write that, Mark. Look, I am engaged to a woman and I love her a lot. I talk to her twice a day because she's not in this country. She is in the Philippines. She's 55 years old, full of simplicity and life, and she's an Essene. Before I even met her, she was probably the only one there in the Philippines, with a few exceptions I've learned since then. Now, look, we got to meet each other in 2018. I was there on a mission trip, and I was stopped in to see her, and we had a wonderful month there, almost a month together. And that's when we decided that we were each other, we wanted to get married. She'd never been married before. She never had children. So we started with the immigration system there in 2018, trying to get her in. We're still at it 4 years later. 4 years later. What's happened is all these people coming in the southern border illegally. On the other side, 3 million people have been banned from coming in legally. You never hear about this. And in Manila, I haven't seen her for 3 years. Here's my dilemma. Yes, I want to see her. Last time I went there in 2018, I had a heart attack. Don't tell anybody. When I got back just in time to go to the hospital and get cleaned out again, these arteries. So then the COVID came. I was getting ready to go over again. COVID came. They dropped all these cases of fiance immigration. They dropped them, right? I said 3 million people. There's 3 million people that were dropped. That's a fact in statistics. And look, I can't even go back there without a shot. She can't come here without a shot. She finally broke down and took it, and she didn't have the side effects, but her brother did. Her brother and her, very close in age, he had side effects about killed him. And so now look, if I want to go back there, it's starting to open up. You help me on that, Craig. am I going to be
Well, hey, you're going to
administrator?
have to pray and ask the Father, but I mean, you're definitely rolling the hard six there if you take that chance. You know, I've got a family member that took that,
What's
and
that?
he has had serious health problems ever since.
I think I would have.
Serious health problems.
Mhm.
It's got fluid building up that the doctors can't figure it out. It's like behind his heart, and so I call it you know, a high risk endeavor, but I guess you'll have to pray and ask Father what to
It
do.
would be a high risk endeavor. And of course, I'd have to pray protection. I have one of my friends do that too if I was going to get that shot and go over there. But I understand you need 4 shots now. And right now, the deal is even if you have a shot, when you get to Manila, you've got to go in isolation for a week. And then when you get to Mindanao, which is 1,000 miles south of island, you got to go in for another week. There's 2 weeks of your time that they're putting you in isolation. And in Mindanao, where she lives, there's no COVID there. That's an island. Nobody has COVID. Nobody ever did. When is this demonic crunch going to be done? I think we're going to have it done before now if we had any opportunity to be united in these things. And when you've got all these status quo churches all for it, and even somebody like you know who saying that he's for it, brother, I'm not for anything that has fetal cells in it. I don't care if they're 30, 40 years old. I don't care what. If they're made with fetal cells, and now we know this is nothing but an experiment, that it doesn't even work. Yeah. Well, you know, our group, the Yahad, we have, what did we write up about 6, 8 months ago? It was,
Yeah, that exemption. Wow, that was a fantastic exemption. And it got accepted by every single person here that used it.
yeah,
No argument. It got accepted.
I had strangers that would write to me asking, they heard about it and they want one. I told them, I'm not going to sign it, but here it is. You can write it out for yourself and have somebody sign it, whoever you consider is your spiritual head. Yeah, man, that was good. You and I, we put that together. Kenneth Kimmons did some of it. Ray Boschers did some of it. It was a real Yahad project. So what do you think? Do you have some advice for me?
I tell you, that's a tough thing. You know, I halfway, if I wasn't, if I was a maverick of sorts, I'd say find some way to get her into the country, just like all them other people are going across the border.
I'm thinking of that. I think you gave me that idea. Fly her to Mexico, get her a flight to Mexico and go down there and meet up somehow.
Yeah.
If I knew more about that, that'd be the most expedient way. And certainly they would let her in if they're letting every drug dealer in the South come on in. One thing
They're not sending any of them back. I mean, it's like a total open border right now. You know?
Well, it's good to be living in the free state of Florida here. Anyway, we got a governor who is extremely conservative and doing the right thing. I really feel bad for some of you people in some of those states. You're just getting a little taste of persecution now. But I'm pretty sure they started a couple of years ago to arrest independent ministers in Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and put them in jail. Number one, because they didn't have an ordaining organization behind them. And number two, because they had no authority to do a wedding. So what was happening is some couples that didn't get along with each other after the wedding, they sued the preacher. In one case, there was a fine to be paid. Another case, one guy went to jail. And that was in Tennessee. I need to check into that again. But at that time when this was happening, I guess 2 years ago, I wrote to all the ministers in our channel here. And I said, look, if you're going to be a Lone Ranger minister, I adjure you to look at this stuff concerning what they're planning to do to you, especially if you're in the just south of the Midwest. All right, I have that out on the website. I'll dig it up for you, Vicki. If you got it in the chat right now, so I'll look back on that. Anybody else want to say something about one of these issues? Otherwise,
Can I say something for you?
oh, look who's here. It's Barbie.
Barb,
We want you to sing something.
you do?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Sing All the Way. Can you do that one? Frank Sinatra.
I'm not sure I can do that one.
Can you do My Way? And
You
look,
want to hear some jazz?
McGrew is here. Can you believe that?
Um,
First time he's ever been on with me on Zoom. And you, Barbara, you showed up too. Go ahead. What do you have to say?
You want me to sing a spiritual worship song for you guys?
Yeah, for about 20 seconds.
Okay. What if I never heard about you? And if I never heard your call, and if I never cried out your name, would I ever known you at all? And now I can sing for joy, and it's all because of knowing you. Your comforter's here with me, and your loving word ever true. So take me, I wanna belong, and shake me whenever I'm wrong. Just make me a note in a song for you.
I don't like you anymore.
Uh-oh.
Why haven't you come on our Shabbat service and shared? You don't need accompaniment.
Got a good voice. Go
Why
to
don't
Nashville.
you come on? You come on every week and share something like that. It
Oh,
would.
okay. I'll try to do that.
Well, don't try. Make a commitment. I know that you got a hangover at 11 o'clock on Shabbat day. No, you
And
don't.
what time does it start?
11 o'clock.
Your time?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You're in Arizona again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's real early.
Yeah. We're on
Personally-
AC Rebel time. We don't have daylight savings.
Personally, I like to see it to be about 2 o'clock Eastern time. I think that'd be
Yeah.
better. And maybe we'll do that. Thank you, Barbara.
Sure. I was going to share something. I don't know if people know about this. There's a doctor in another country that's been working with blood. What he was doing was, of course, doing regular blood draws on patients and new patients. And he then began, when they decided they were going to get the COVID shots, then he would have them come back in and draw blood again, and he compared them. And so then he was finding that, the blood was all messed up. And then he started comparing his patients that didn't ever get any of the shots, but were married to having intercourse with a male. Or
Yeah. I remember this.
yeah, and it
Recall.
was shedding. It was going to the unvaxxed person, messing their blood up. It's just kind of creepy. But anyway, that's what I was going to say.
Was that you that sent me a link on that?
Probably. I'm a warrior. I've been out of work since 6 months with my arm, so I've been trying to tell the world what's going on.
One
Actually,
thing that we have is our friends they are internet evangelists. They're not letting their opportunity right now to pass by without being evangelist. And even this guy that just raised his hand, Honore Jean Finet, a great internet evangelist, especially to us in the group. Go ahead and say something. Finney. I'm going to see you Shabbat there, Barbara.
okay, I'll sure try to do that.
Try to do it.
You might have to give me a call and wake me up.
Okay.
I've got on lazy man hours since I've been off work.
We have great services, and sometimes even Professor Smith preaches.
Nice. Text me when you're done. Text me what's
Okay,
what's
hon.
that
I will.
or the link or whatever. So I'll be ready.
Okay. Finney, are you on there? Hello, Finney? Well, he raised his hand. He wanted to say something, but they have a bad connection in Haiti there. And let me ask one more time, is there anybody else? Oh, we'll let you go. It's 11, a little past 11. Again, thank you so much. You're a great help to me, especially tonight.